You delivered the final work to your client, and now crickets. No feedback, no payment, no closure. In today's live, I'm going to show you how to stop that ghosting from sabotaging your revenue and your deadlines with one simple sentence. And it's going to be really empowering because I'm going to share some personal client stories with you. And I want to first welcome you to this amazing day. My name is Acacia Thornton, the CEO legal coach, and I'm a longtime attorney and a business advisor, attorney for over a decade, business advising for closer to 20. Whoops. And I have had so many different client stories over the years about things that are so easily resolved. And that's one of the things we're going to go through today. And why I created this series is called the Aligned Business Series. And we're going live 3 times a week, sharing real world stories about what business owners like you are facing out there and what can be done to solve the problem. Because there's so many things as business owners with our clients and deadlines and milestones that we take it upon ourselves. Even your own boundaries, your personal boundaries, we feel we have to do it as the entrepreneur, as the business leader. And the truth is, there's a support system for you. And there's a really key support system for you. And believe it or not, it's your client agreement. It's not just legalese in there. That is your energetic space. And today we're talking about the headache and the delayed payments that happens with ghosting, right? Now, why does even ghosting happen? Why does it happen? Do you know what? It's actually not always malicious because most clients don't want to be shady, right? Majority of people in this world want to do right. They want to do good. They want to fulfill their promises. So that what's going on is something just has shifted on their side. Usually, right? They're overwhelmed, they're avoidant, they're unsure what to say, but sometimes they don't even know that they're ghosting you. As weird as that might sound, they're just working on their own timeline. Their timeline and deadlines are different than yours. You're prioritizing your client, but they may not be prioritizing this project or this product or the relationship with you right now. Maybe it was a big deal in the beginning, but something's fallen off, right? So a lot of the common causes of ghosting is, again, not that malicious intent, but just disorganization or burnout, fear of confrontation, no clear project closing. And that's one of the things we're going to hear in the story today. With my client had amazing communication with her customer, really ongoing for months. And then he ghosted at a very interesting time. Payment time. And so let's just dive right into that story. And this story is somebody who does design work. She's been in business for over a decade. She's phenomenal, constantly having 6, 7-figure years, really successful at what she does. And she was doing this design project, creating custom marketing materials and website and logo stuff for her clients. And it was a 6-month project. 6-month project. So different milestones are all listed in their contract. Every one of them they're delivering. And the client's like, I love this. I love this. I love this. We go to the milestone 2, it's delivered. The client's like, I love it. I love it. I love it. We keep going, right? And then she delivers the end of it, right? All 5 months. Here's the big finale of the final package of all the customized work, and the client ghosts. Nowhere to be seen. Nothing. So a few weeks go by, and she's like, okay, let me start tracking him down. She starts spending the time and the mental energy to go track this guy down. Nothing. So she's like, okay, well, I'll send the invoice. And she sends the invoice, and ghosting. There's still no response. She's starting to even wonder if she should worry at this point. Has something happened to the client? But with enough time and enough chasing, she got the guy on the phone. And what does he do? He yells at her. This work is horrible. I'm not going to pay for it. She's like, well, I'm happy to work with you. I mean, we've been working together great for 5 months to this point. And of course, revisions, you get 2 revisions included. I'm happy to update whatever you think needs updating. No, I refuse to accept this delivery, and I'm just rejecting. Not even going to use your stuff, and I'm definitely not paying for it. What does my client do here? What does she do? Right? She has spent all this time creating this package, and yeah, she had retainer and fees along the way, but here was the big finale. She deserves to be paid for the big finale, the big final work. Also, that work is in the client's hands. Her customer has that work. Can she really stop him from doing things with that work, from still using it? Why is he rejecting it now? We don't know, and we will never know. But she's left with nothing to point to other than I expected my client to continue working with me in good faith and great things and to pay for the work like he said he would do. Where on the other side, the client is like, I don't have to continue working with you. There's nothing in the agreement that says I have to take this delivery. There's nothing in this that says I can't drag this out for forever. There's nothing in this that says we're done. And that's the real problem with a lot of client agreements is they assume that the customer will stay engaged and communicative. They assume that the customer will continue prioritizing the project all the way through, even to the ending, the closing, and payment. And they also assume, so many times our client agreements assume that the customer will want to use those revision rounds. What if they don't? There's nothing that says they have to, right? And so most contracts say what happens if everything goes smoothly or everybody behaves the way we hope and want and expect them to. What they rarely say, and this is today's key lesson, is that what happens if the client disappears? What happens if the client doesn't want the revisions? What happens if the client ghosts, delays, disengages? And that's the gap. There's that big assumption things will always work out. They're coming to you because they want your expertise. They want to work with you. But that doesn't mean on the end of it, they're still going to feel the same. So if your agreement doesn't account for that silence, avoidance, or ghosting, which I'll show you here in a second, how to get it to address that, then what ends up happening is just like my client, the income was at mercy. There's no end date. The client could have even ghosted her for 6 months and then come back at the end of the year and be like, okay, I'm ready for my revisions now. Like, what? I thought that project ended forever ago. Well, I never finished paying for it. Until we have an official, this is the moment we're done. This is when delivery in my side of this is done, right? And done in a good way. I've brought you my heart. I brought you my soul and my expertise the way you asked for it, client. It's time to reciprocate with yours. And when we're waiting for the client to do something, we leave that in limbo. And so what is the answer to this? The answer to this is called an acceptance clause. And it's a very simple sentence that you put into your client agreements. And what it does is it defines what happens when approval is done. What happens when approval is done? When is delivery done? No matter what happens, whether the client does or doesn't respond. What if the client does and doesn't like the project? What if the client does and doesn't want to use those revisions? And it is pretty much, in short, indicating that the project or milestone is officially done. And why is that important? It's important because done now means the payment obligation is triggered. And that was what my client was missing, is it was just in limbo. Is payment obligation due? If there's still the opportunity that the client can come back 6 months from now, a year from now, even 6 years from now, the client agreement didn't prohibit any of that. It didn't say when done is done. And so it's everything just left in limbo. The guy got to reject the invoice. Why? Because the client agreement didn't say when this happens, payment is due. And so he got to sit there and say payment isn't due. And they both had great and valid stances. All they needed was more clarity in that agreement to give them guidance. And that's what the acceptance clause does. It sets the clear rule. And if they don't raise their concerns or request changes within a set number of days or a certain time frame, that work or product or whatever you said is automatically considered approved and payment becomes due. This happens when you also send physical products, like maybe you make yoga mats and you send them and it says delivered, right? You have a tracking. It says it was delivered on Monday and the client comes back 3 months later. Oh, I didn't get it. Oh, I got it, but it was damaged. You're like, You got that 3 months ago. There isn't a clear, this is when delivery is done, and this is the timeline you have to give us feedback and things back. So, how can you get an acceptance clause? I'm going to show you right now how to get one you can literally copy paste right into your agreements. You pick which one you want, what works best for your business, and you just copy paste it right in, no drafting required. And I'll show you that while we also get to our live Q&A. So I see some of you are already commenting in the chats. Don't worry, I will get to them. But let me get that up for you. So the program I'm talking about is called Align Clients Paid with Purpose. And what it is it's 3 different areas, just like this acceptance clause, where we misguide or we lose our opportunity as business owners to set clear boundaries about everything, about what happens if they ghost, what happens if it goes right, what happens if just, hey, we're not quite on the same page, right? Because your client agreements are not there so you guys can sue each other. It's never what they were there for. They're to help guide your relationship. And so Align Clients Paid with Purpose was built because I had so many clients, like the story I told you today, and that it's so easy, right? Just decide how you want to work with your clients and then copy paste that in. So now our story earlier, she had a line that said, client, you have 3 days from the time of delivery that if I don't hear from you about revisions, work is accepted, right? That would have been great for her scenario there. And that if once it's accepted, payments due. And now the customer would not be able to say, I want to reject this months later, which is what he tried to do. She could point to the agreement and say, this is what we agreed to do. This is how we agreed to behave in this scenario. And so now, client, I have the opportunity to enforce and protect this boundary by using what you had agreed to do. And 9 out of 10 times, that's enough for a client to just be like, all right, yeah, I guess, right? What are they going to do? Go for a breach of contract? That's very different scenario than if just ghosting, right? Because ghosting can really, truly be innocent and something else. But once you're aware that you're violating the contract, you behave and respond differently. You're like, no, I do have an obligation to do something here. So Align Clients Paid with Purpose is 3 of those areas. The very, very first module is exactly this. It's acceptance clauses. And like I said, what I'll do is I'll walk you through some more client stories so you get to see what other people are facing and then decide what works best for you. You'll have a worksheet and you just copy paste it right into your client agreements. And you can make multiple versions of any of them on there. And then, like I said, there's two more modules. Module 2 is scope creep, which is really like, that's just your sanity and revenue increaser right there. And then the last one is termination clauses. So all really big ways. But let's get to your live Q&A. All right, we've got about 7 minutes we can go here because you guys know I always like to try and stay within my, what do you got? So I'll put it in the chat as well in case you want to hit the link there. But let's see, questions, because I saw that on the questions. So there's the link for that, guys. Thank you for asking for it. It is probably easier in the chat. What if they still don't pay even with the clause? Okay. What if they still don't pay even with the clause? What this clause does is it says that that obligation to pay is real. It says it's real. Unlike the other, like my client earlier who, well, the obligation to pay wasn't even real at the time, right? It wasn't even real. So because there was no statement in the agreement that said that. So first we want to make sure that it's clear in the agreement that it's time to pay. Pay is officially due now. You had your chance to say or do whatever you needed to do, client. And that opportunity has come and gone. It is time to pay. So now, because we've clarified in the agreement that the time is now for payment, not just a cents invoice like my client did, but it's made it clear. Now, if they don't pay, we're in a different scenario. There's no more chasing because we're trying to get them to meet an obligation. Now it's very clear they are in violation of the agreement. And that shifts the opportunity, that shifts your empowerment in this moment. Because now instead of saying, client, still waiting to hear from you, hey, just don't want to bother you, but like, do you mind just letting me know if you like the delivery or not? Now it's like, client, a payment was officially became due. Acceptance was on July 5th. Payment is now due. You are past due. You are in breach of contract, right? You can start to change the types of words you're using and the way you're connecting with them. So you might still have to go through just normal collections or something. But again, sometimes lack of payment is not always malicious. It's a shift of obligations, and it usually comes out of vagueness or a lack of clarity in the contract. If your client agreement is clear on these things, it becomes clear payment is now due. Dear client, you don't get to linger. You have this much time, and then I can go do these things, or I can charge these fees or whatnot. The more clarity you have in that agreement, the more your sanity is supported and the less you're going to have to chase because you are empowered by the terms that were agreed to. Which leads us to this very next question. Is this clause enforceable in court? Yes. As long as it is part of an agreement, a true contract, right? A valid, enforceable contract, it's part of your valid, enforceable contract. So yes, absolutely. Is this in my current template? Okay, so this is the type of clause that usually, as you can see here, requires some customization. You want it to be aligned to your business, how you do work with your clients, and what those things are. Because of that, you rarely see them in generic templates. And you also won't see them in anything you got off of AI if you use like ChatGPT for them, because there's not enough standardization to make one for everybody. In the rare, so it's very, very unlikely that your template, unless it was customized for you, it's unlikely it has this. If it does have one though, it also will be generic. It's not going to be aligned to your business, which means it's not going to support you and your client relationships the way you want it to. So that's something else. So is it in there? Very unlikely if that's not a customized agreement. If it is in there, you're still going to want to customize it anyways, because that's how you get empowered. It's doing business your way with your clients for sure. Does this work for digital products or done-for-you services? Okay. Yeah. So I had mentioned physical products, and I kind of mentioned like services, design work, consulting. When it comes to the digital products or done-for-you services, which I actually am liking this question right now. Do you know what's so funny? Can I just like do a side thing? Earlier this week, I was like manifesting and doing my thing, and the universe has called me to create some contract templates and including terms of service for like digital products and done for you stuff. And then yesterday, working with one of my existing clients, she's like, I want to start adding these in my business. Can you write me the done for you? Can you customize some done for you type terms for me as well? So that's really funny that this type of question is coming up 3 days in a row from me. It's like, okay, universe, I get the message. I'm on it. I love it. But so back to the original question, like, does this work for digital projects or done for you services? It does. You're going to have a slightly different like wording or structure because it knows some of things deliveries once they've downloaded it or have access to it. But you do also want to know that like, and clarify that that's when you're done. You don't get anything else from me. You don't get to have, 60 days of customer service or private calls with me or whatever, right? You want to clear the boundaries that says when you pay this and you get this, delivery is officially done at this moment. And therefore there's also maybe not a refund or whatever else it might still be going on. So it is still a form of acceptance clause, just slightly varied for the type of product and dynamic you're having with your customer. All right, we have just over a minute. One left. Is this in the Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose contract templates? Okay, so Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose is not complete templates. It helps you use your existing templates, which, like I said just a few minutes ago, I'm actually going to create some, but they will be standalone. And so you get to take your existing agreement and add these clauses the way you want to add them. So you're going to get the sentences and how to have, right, copy paste the acceptance clause you want into your pre-existing template. Because your template needs to be for your business model, right? I can't give an Aligned Clients Paid with Purpose template that's for coaching and design and consulting and physical products. And right, there wouldn't be one template for that. So I trust that you have a template designed to help you succeed. And this is a way to elevate that, to have better clarity, better communication, better client relationships. And all three of those clauses are pretty much guaranteed to increase your revenue. If you've got them in there right, they're going to increase your revenue pretty quickly. All right, guys, we're at time, so I'm going to head out, but we have another call tomorrow. Tomorrow's call, 10 a.m. And what is the topic? Where is my notes? Oh my gosh. I know it's very similar. I think this is the one about protecting your long-term revenue, which is a really big one. So if you have agreements that are over usually a month or two, you want to really protect that revenue because you'd be surprised what can take it away. I'll tell you those stories tomorrow. Have a